Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest on the European heatwave that we are seeing and have been seeing over the last couple of weeks. Now it's 7 days since I last put my update, put an update out. I do want to go back and see what is going on at the moment and over the next few days and weeks. Now luckily for everyone down in southern Europe, the heatwave will be subsiding, or at least the hottest, most persistent air will be moving away. It will still stay fairly hot. It is summer, of course, just not quite as hot as it has been recently. Now, the reason for the very hot weather is because of the jet stream, as I explained in this video, the video last week. We've got the jet stream pretty much flat across the UK, and that's why it's so unsettled and rainy in the UK at the moment. Why we saw so much heavy rain over the weekend, just seeing huge weather systems moving in off the Atlantic. But what that stationary flat jet stream does is it just locks in weather patterns. So for Northern Europe, it's very unsettled, cool, wet and windy weather. For Southern Europe, it's high pressure, and at this time of year, where the sun is extremely strong, it's basically a furnace, as all that heat just builds and builds and builds and has nowhere to go. Normally, this heat bursts northwards, giving some heat to the UK, to areas further northwards, eastwards and westwards, but because of the pattern of the jet stream, we're seeing that hot air, or we have seen that hot air go nowhere. However, the jet stream is slightly changing its tilt. This is essentially breaking up that high pressure cell towards southern Europe. Not eliminating hot weather there. There will be hot weather over the next few weeks, but just this persistent, very hot, getting close to record temperatures, your European temperature record, getting close to that will be subsiding over the coming days. Over the next sort of 12 to 24 hours in the western part of the Med and the eastern part of the Med, probably by Thursday or Friday. So on through what the latest GFS is showing. We'll have a look at some of the reanalysis charts to see what it was showing this time last week, and then we'll have a look at some of the ensembles and of course some of the individual weather forecasts from the Met Office to see what they're thinking for individual temperatures in different or specific locations of interest. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, links in description. So to start on the latest GFS, you can see cold air is actually drifting into parts of northern and western Europe and sinking southwards as we speak, and parts of the Med are already starting to cool down. Along this boundary between very hot air and cool air, there are some big thunderstorms going on at the moment, building along that front, and we are expecting some very heavy rain in places. But you see the hottest air is still just about holding on across southern Italy and parts of Greece, and it will hold on there perhaps for another 24 to 48 hours in some of these regions before wafting out to our east. So it is changing, and if we have a look at the chart from this time last week, you can see how the isobars are all spread out and the heat is just here built in and consistent, and you can see it did spread slowly eastwards towards the latter part of last week, building in Greece more through the weekend and further westwards towards the start of last week. But you can see I was just not moving anywhere really through most of this week, and one running through 10 plus days there, and you can see the hot air hardly moves, drifts up and down in a few regions, but of course that core Mediterranean region, especially around Italy, really not moving at all. But now we'll look at the latest GFS. It is getting blown away by the jet stream, and look at that upper air temperatures as low as 10 to 15 degrees across much of the Med there, with the hottest air getting shoved out across parts of Eastern Europe out towards the Middle East. Even could actually send parts of the Ukraine there, and it's incredibly hot for a few days. That wouldn't be good for soldiers fighting in the war at the moment. And again, building that heat across parts of Russia as well into the longer term. So that heat isn't dissipating, it's just moving away and spreading out across the European continent and probably out towards Asia over the coming days. And if we do run on further, you can see there is still some heat being built in. Still could see the 20 to 25 degree isotherm at times, but it's not as consistent and not as pink as we have been seeing over the past few days and the past few weeks. And you can see that on the temperature deviation incredibly well. Look at all that cool upper air temperatures moving in across northwest Europe and dominating much of the Med there. Look, the whole of Italy is in the blues 4 to 6 degrees below average, and the hot air is out to our east, and it is building further northwards, and you can see some quite intense bursts of heat through parts of Russia there and out towards the Middle East as that heat does move away. And you can see over the coming days and the coming weeks, plenty of hot weather around, but generally mixing with some more blues here, especially in the short to medium term, as we're just generally seeing more mixing of air. Now, I said the reason for this is the jet stream is shifting slightly in its orientation. Unfortunately, it's not really going to change the fortunes for the UK, but for parts of southern Europe, it is going to be changing the fortunes. If we put on the 200 HPA winds, quite high up in the atmosphere, generally at the jet stream height, you can see this kink in the isobars sinking southwards. This is the jet stream drifting towards the Med, allowing cooler air to drift in instead of going flat across the UK and holding that hotter air. And you can see more of a mobile jet stream here, still generally pointed directly at the UK here, meaning we're going to stay very unsettled, perhaps hints in the longer term of some more bigger amplifications which could allow high pressure to build at times, but over the next at least 7 to 10 days, generally the jet stream is more wiggly, but still generally pointed at the UK. So we're going to stay fairly unsettled. Air masses might oscillate a bit more, but the big difference is it will allow cool air to penetrate that high pressure cell across southern Europe, meaning that we will see that hot air diminish away. And the other thing will be that it brings rainfall. You can see more isobars here, more smaller areas of lows as we do move through, even there, a bit of a cut-off low towards the Bay of Biscay towards early August, just indicating that low pressure is going to be mixing in, more rainfall, and that also cools those temperatures down. You see from the reanalysis, if we look at the 18th, you see here, isobars very spread out, pressure pretty consistent around the 1020 millibars, and you can see the very intense reds here, indicating a very strong area of high pressure, not budging at all compared to what we're seeing as we head into a couple of weeks' time. Look at the high pressure is nowhere near as strong, actually has low pressure penetrating it as well. So heatwave is coming to an end, but what will that actually do at the surface? And will we see a return to that? Are any of the ensemble members indicating a return to any of that intense heat? Now, just before we have a look at some of the ensembles, do you just want to go to WX charts, which shows the anomalies even better. So you can see the intense heat still lingering across parts of Greece over the next couple of days, before eventually getting pushed away, and you can see much more mixing of blues and reds here. Some more darker, intense reds here, transiently. Sort of in a transition there around early August, but you can see it moves through very quickly, so most likely to give a couple of days of enhanced heat. But generally, the anomalies here again around the sort of 10 minus 10 to plus 10, so hot at times, sort of deviating quite significantly from average, but not the intense persistent heat that we have been seeing. Now, if we go over to West Central again and have a look at the ensembles, we start in Sardinia, where we have seen some of the hottest temperatures from this heat wave, temperatures reaching around the mid-40s. We just about got around 1 degree lower than the European temperature record. We got into the 48s. So not quite eclipsing the all-time European temperature record that was observed in 2021. So yes, it was a very intense heat wave, very dangerous, but we didn't break the all-time temperature record, and we did break some localised records, as you'd expect with quite a large prolonged heat wave, but not the all-time European temperature record with this heat wave. But you see for Sardinia, the upper temperatures were up towards the 30s a few days ago, already dropping down towards the mid-20s. Will actually be dropping to average to slightly below average at times over the next few days. Maybe some precipitation, but actually pretty minimal here for Sardinia. Precipitation will be further northwards. As we do progress through much of the end of July and early August, our present temperatures still actually looking likely to be slightly above average. A bit of a wobble during early August, but before that, right at the end of July and start of August, again a few degrees above average, and again towards maybe the 8th to the 10th, more ensemble members around again that 20 to 25 degree range, nowhere near the 30 plus degrees we were seeing a few days ago. So here, generally average to maybe slightly above average, still pretty hot. Again, we look at the 2 metre temperatures, still likely to be reaching around the 30 degree mark every day, maybe even higher, getting towards the mid-30s, but that is what you'd expect in these regions for summer, not seeing the 40 plus degrees anymore as the heat does subside. I do just want to have a look at Athens as well. This is further eastwards, so we'd expect to have a slightly different trajectory. You can see the intensely hot air still hanging on, just about touching 30 degrees here for most ensemble members over the next couple of days, and then it drops to average or even slightly below average for a day or so around the 28th, 29th, and then generally quite similar to Sardinia. We are at average or slightly above average through the rest of July and early August with pretty minimal rainfall, but even though it's about a 5 to 10 degree upper air temperature change, it is going to be a big difference. The 2 meter temperatures, perhaps tomorrow, still getting up towards, today and maybe even tomorrow getting up towards the 40 degree range, but beyond that, back down towards the 30 to 35 degree range. Again, it doesn't sound insanely difference, a 5, maybe 6, 7 degree temperature change, but it is significant in these areas. Sort of, if you imagine the difference between 25 and sort of 32 here, for example, they're both pretty hot. They're both, get sunburn, get quite sweaty out there, but it is generally, there is generally quite a big distinction, and that's what we're seeing here. Even though, yes, dropping to 35, still very hot, nowhere near as hot as it has been recently. Talking of rainfall, I do just want to quickly go back to the GFS and have a look at the precipitation. And you'll be able to see there are some thunderstorms over the next couple of days across parts of Europe, much more than we've seen recently, and there will be continual amounts of showers around as well in places through the rest of this GFS run. And if we have a look at the accumulated precipitation, so those areas like Sardinia and parts of Athens there towards Greece seeing very minimal precipitation, but actually much of the surrounding coastal areas of the Mediterranean towards Rome, towards much of northern Italy, up towards Switzerland, France and Spain, actually seeing quite considerable rainfall, and towards parts of northern Greece seeing considerable rainfall. So that will help as well with the heat and with the wildfire risk we do have at the moment. And just to finish, I do want to have a look at the Met Office official forecast. You can see expecting around 30 degrees. This is 30 degrees on Tuesday, but today 24 degrees is expected this afternoon. Pretty cool compared to what we've had recently, where temperatures have got up to the mid 40s. Maybe that is a bit low. If I look at the ensemble members, they're predicting maybe high 20s, so Met Office a bit cooler than a lot of these ensemble members are showing, but regardless, a much cooler day. Again, will it be 24 degrees or 28 degrees? It's much cooler than the 40 plus degrees that we've seen widely across parts of Italy. And you can see into longer term as we head towards the latter parts of July, back into the low to maybe mid 30s. So getting towards average to above average again, average being around that 30 to 32 degree mark for Sardinia. So we're getting slightly above average by a few degrees, but nothing compared to the 40 to 45 degree conditions we did see quite widely previously. So yeah, substantial drop today, almost a 20 degree drop in some areas. And finally, if we have a look at Athens, still hanging on to the heat for another couple of days. Again, you see 39 degrees again today, 35 tomorrow, and then slowly towards the low 30s, as we progress to the last few days of July. So it is looking likely this heat wave is subsiding, and from the looks of the ensemble members and the GFS run, it doesn't look like that any heat wave on this level is going to be coming back for the foreseeable future. So hopefully things will get a bit better. Hopefully that wildfire risk does diminish and those heavy thundery showers do come along over the next couple of days to help put those out. But for the time being, unfortunately, not bringing much of improvement to the UK, with all that hot air being squeezed further eastwards, not northwards like I had hoped a week ago. Hope that we see something a bit hotter over the next couple of weeks as we do progress the rest of August, but unfortunately not looking likely from this latest run. So yes, heatwave is coming to its end, coming to its conclusion. Historic heatwave, yes, very dangerous in places and did breach local records, but not breaking the European all-time temperature record. So anyway, thanks for watching, hope you have enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.